Yes, Eagle first, Ram second, and Lauren. You three guys speak first.
Okay. First, thank everybody for really interesting presentations. I will then go and try to elaborate why I think they are really helpul. But first, a proposal for Jason. Can you just show the last slide, one of CCI
Oh,
101?
SCI.
Yes.
Okay. Uh,
Because there is something I would like to propose. Uh, I like I like the idea, but just one little thing.
Wait a second.
Basically, if you could switch the word, so it's not systems cybernetics, but this cyber systemic.
Yeah, and you need to put the information. You mean this one?
Cybernetics before systems, and then you have CSI.
Oh, SCSI.
Okay, and it goes very well with the cyber systemics, which we are trying to push through. Oh, you have a really big bowl of soup. Okay,
No, it is my
so
coffee.
okay, uh, so basically, that was the comment, and now thank you, and I will try to elaborate the thank you in a way that DeepSeek was elaborated to me a few days ago. Basically, it started with okay, what is reality, right? And the reality is something we do not understand. It is beyond our five poor senses to really properly understand. What we can do is create a model of the reality. The picture you see is not really reality, it is just a model of the reality. Okay, we can agree on that, right? Now,
We'll
the
ask
next,
Aaron if Aaron agree because he
the
has a
next,
reality
no,
in
no,
it.
yeah, the next, the next model we have created is basically internet, because the internet models what we perceive as reality. So basically, it is a second level model of a model, right?
Okay.
And then large language models came out, for instance, ChatGPT, which created model of the knowledge stored in internet. So basically, model of a model of a model. Okay, and then DeepSeek came in and created a model based on ChatGPT. So basically, it is a model of a model of a model of a model.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we should acknowledge that we live in a world of models. The reality as we understand it may work for us. And then here comes the language, because language is basically a structure which can help us do something, and that is share our models with others. And here comes the thank you. Thank you for sharing your models today. And yes, thanks for the discussion. And we know about models that none of the models is a perfect picture of the reality, because our capacity is not at the level to fully comprehend that reality. So you need to have several different models to be a little bit better in understanding the reality. And again, thank you for that.
And the key to evaluate those many models is the usability. So I like the slogan, models
One of the because I'm sorry, the economancer. I don't really know your name.
Joe.
Oh, Joe. Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
sorry. You know, he's talking about the ethics, about the norms. You know,
hmm
it does not need to be the utilization. It can be many things. Where I don't know, Jason, you spoke about failure, right? In the
Yeah, it's
beginning.
just the example of when we fail. Everybody has experience for
What is failure? I
failure
don't.
is
Yeah,
disappointment. It's what you want to get and
no, but that's a feeling.
have nothing. So, uh, failure is a waste to your energy and waste to your design and maybe a destroy of your hope or all kinds of bad things. But I have a different view. I think failure is the very essence that we learn. And so we have a better knowledge, we have better wisdom once we had a good number of failures.
Yeah, failure is really good in gathering your knowledge, right?
It's the chance. That's the chance. Well, in Chinese, they say failure is the mother of success. So you have to have your mother first. Uh, who else? You finish?
Yes,
That's
yes, yes.
Lori? Lori? Oh, Jerry
Yes,
is here too.
I can say something.
Yes, please.
Um, the contrast between the first two talks reminds me of the model I've been using suggests that the mind can function in one of three ways. One is a technical thought, in which you're using rigorous language and logic within some package. There's mental networks, which are, think of them as emotionally imposed schema. And then there's normal thought, where you use analogies in a semi-rigorous manner. It's called normal thought because that's what we normally use. So what we've got with the first presentation is emphasizing the technical thought. Hey, how do we do it in a rigorous way and keep this system of technical thought functioning so it doesn't go off the rails in some manner? And you need it, yeah. Then the second talk saying, but wait, there's also the emotional, the moral aspect of all these emotionally imposed schema value systems that are working that's also working with that. It is providing the subjective, the motivational component. And then in order to bridge those, you can't use either of them. You have to bridge them analogically. So that's what came to my mind, just as general from the talks.
Yeah, I think so, Lauren. Well, my purpose was just do it technically, physics, based upon physics and biology. That was the two, basic sciences to corroborate this. I know ethics, morality, virtue. I've done my master's in ethics, but I specifically took it, avoided that to finish this paper. And I just say ethics is information, and only optimal information gives us optimal control and functionality, and that's about it.
Rand, I confess that I have not read your paper in detail, not like Joe reading 50 times. But I think you can clarify to us how are you going to measure those variables in your equation? Because after all, this is supposed to be a law and supposed to be very solid and
Yes.
so the measurement of mass, measurement of energy, measurement of reality is where I'm very curious. How do you do that?
As I said, reality is a consensus. Reality is, an agreed reality. As you say, we cannot know everything, so we have to deal with reality every day. We can go out here, drive a car, have traffic, and so on. That's reality. We cannot fly without an airplane, and so on. So the consensus of social cohesion is an acceptance of reality that is based upon the work of Luhmann, Nicholas Luhmann in Germany. Now, this is what we call reality. We cannot do things we cannot do, really, but it's not, we cannot specify that in units of quantify it, how much information is in units. The outcome of the functionality or malfunction or function, the probability of functionality or the probability of malfunctioning is the unit. It cannot be quantified in a percentage unless you can quantify the, the risk we are itemizing for each man-made system or man-made problem. The quantification is not in units, but it is the probability of functioning that I'm focusing on. So the functioning ability or the dysfunctioning reality, really. So we can say, okay, when the relationship between thermodynamics and information theory here can say, okay, that the energy aspect either dissipates, like beta-Lanfy, right? Or it is conserved. So when we maximize our truth, and the truth, as you say, is not knowledgeable, is not always known, but it's a relationship to the reality. But we have to know that if we do not pursue truth, therefore an information deficit will cause malfunctioning. So when we suppress information or lie about a goal that we want to achieve, that is not focused on the survival of the species, right? We cause an information deficit, which means it causes an energy deficit. So the goals cannot be achieved because the process of lying already dissipates, uses the energy to achieve a goal. It won't be there to function anymore because, energy is something that is useful or not. And if it's not there anymore, it cannot be used for the purpose of goals that are based upon part of the information. Is that clear?
You're putting goals in the equation now for the first time. Goals, yes. You have mentioned goals several times now, but in the presentations, they were not there.
No.
Can the goals be related to basically self-preservation or egocentric behavior, or as Joe proposed, to serve higher goals of the society, etc. Basically, norms. You know where I'm going.
No, it's a goal can be anything, but of course, as I'm concerned with how society is going at the moment. But a goal is like cybernetical goal. You can steer your ship to a certain port. You need information to get there, feedback mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
But when there's a goal there, an ideology, for example, based upon dependent on the suppression or the negating of information, that goal is now being proven or demonstrable, can never be achieved because it lacks the energy is equal to information.
Jerry?
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed much of the presentations because of another obligation, but I did pick up the last part of your presentation, Jason, and I particularly wanted to comment on the relationships that I perceive from the discussions that have gone forth thus far. And I think perhaps the best way to start my disagreements or my conflicts or my internal tensions, or however you want to call this contribution. So first, let's start with the notion of reality as either a scientific reality that is a property of the community as a large. That is, that people agree on, for example, commodities that are necessary for sustaining life, or people agree on the utility of a dollar bill to buy something, or there's all sorts of areas where the reality is pretty clear, a community value which is widely agreed upon. And that sort of reality also can be applied to the notion that there's just many other areas, many other logical terms or semantic terms in the sense of language, that there is wide disagreement on what they are about. But this varies greatly from individual to individual and also from science to science. And in this area, the question of from science to science becomes a very delicate question of language and how well you know the languages involved and what you interpret in terms of, for example, the concept of energy as economic energy, economic power versus physical energy versus psychological energy. These are widely different notions of the reality of energy, if we can put it into that context. And now so what I'm saying here is very much in line with Lauren's line of reasoning, I think, is that the meaning you wish to give to a term depends on your intellectual capabilities and capacities and experiences. And these were very nicely addressed by Igor in his notion of model of models, models of models of models, models of models of models of models, and etc. And I happen to be, in these cases, each of these models must necessarily use a different logic and a different understanding of what reality is and how reality is going to be factored in a logical way, in a consistent way, etc. And so from that perspective, Jason, then I would then turn to your medical analogy, which of how the doctor diagnoses a patient and the consequential therapies. Your analysis of how the doctor thinks, I thought, was quite reasonable in the overall process of involvement, but it completely avoided the scope of the languages involved. And the scope of the languages involved are radically different. The chemical laboratory tests that your physician uses.
They use Latin.
Let me finish. Yeah, but the scope of the chemistry laboratory results are, roughly 20 orders of magnitude more sensitive than the weight measurements or the blood pressure measurements. 20 orders of magnitude more sensitive in terms of an analysis. And so without addressing the issue of scope within the language of the system, you're going to end up with very different views of reality. And so from my perspective, your notion of how the physician thinks is, well, it's very much as one would anticipate from a layman. It was a lay perspective and remote from the physician's notion of how he views the reality of your body. And so this question of reality, it seems to me to be a common source of misunderstanding, that in certain areas, reality is fixed in a community attribute, a community agreement, etc., etc., etc. The value of gold as a commodity, for example, is an area where there's, tremendous agreement. And that sense of reality there, why challenge that sense of reality? So if you're going to speak about cybernetics and the feedback loops among the different models of models of models of models, you first better get your language straightened out. And if you don't have your language straightened out, you're not going to communicate with the students very well.
Okay, may I comment on that, Jerry?
Pardon?
May I comment on that, Jerry?
Oh, yeah. Of course. Okay. Could you speak a little louder?
Yeah, sorry, I put my mic a little bit closer. Okay. Yeah, of course, reality, it depends on the perception of man. This is one rule, right? But we have to deal in reality to live. And but there is laws of physics that are constraints for life. Laws of biology also. So I would suggest not go into much of complexity, but just keep it simple. Like Jung, he says the most difficult thing is to be simple. Energy, information, mass or matter is related. if they are not balanced in life, whatever situation, you will have to deal with entropy disorder. So when you realize this rule, and I made it really simple, like these equations are very, very simple, because my goal was to make it simple so everybody logically could understand it. And I think by testing it now, I mean, I have proven, I can demonstrate it works to have predictions, and it will maximize or optimize the information relative to the subject, so we can choose better. You know, and this is what it brings us.
Arne, see, I have no problem with that perspective, as long as you tell the public in general, or your listeners, that the way I'm addressing this particular reality, as I've scoped it out in my language, I'm going to use this set of terminologies, etc. And that, I have no problems with that sort of reasoning. I may quibble a hell of a lot about the notion of entropy, but I can accept your usage of it in this context.
Yeah.
So it's a question of, from an educator's point of view, I think is what I've tried to come at this from. From the educator's point of view, how do you present this materials to the students in such a way they end up with a useful experience, shall we say?
Well, it's in my paper as well. Maybe not in this paper, but in my work.
Yeah.
The first thing when I also train people, I also educate, trainings. And the first thing I ask in somebody in an oil terminal, can you run this operation without sufficient information? So I'm using rhetorical questioning for any aspect, so they become aware that you cannot, ride a bike without information. You cannot drive a car without information. You cannot open a valve, without information before you, to start pumping oil, for example, right? So rhetorical questioning opens the mind to the realization that information is key. And when that happens, then they also realize that the reality is key, whatever they are, which reality they choose, but they have to deal with it. So
okay,
information.
First of all, Arne, I agree with what you just said. And the best way to introduce people to information, if I would, is to ask the proper questions for the proper circumstance. Okay.
Right. Sure.
The proper questions for the proper circumstances force the individual to confront their beliefs and their views and their values and their language and these sorts of psychological issues that Lauren is very concerned about. But now let me put on my mathematician's hat for a moment and ask, how do I calculate the amount of information in a cell or in a chemical molecule or in the words that you use? Or any number.
I can answer this.
And I say this now from a very practical side of things.
Well, I can answer this in physics.
It's important from a practical side of things.
Right.
And I'm certain Ram agrees with this.
Yeah.
The question is one of when you're going to calculate the information content of a system.
Well,
any system, you necessarily must presuppose some set of constituents and components of that system that you're then going to symbolize in some form of mathematics or propositions, etc., in order to get a value for the information.
Right.
And that value that you acquire from the information depends exactly on what your initial assumptions were about what you thought about the information of the system.
Right. So the information is in physics, it is now becoming clear that every particle, every molecule contains information in itself about itself. So as you have to answer your question, information is fundamental in everything. So information is the requisite thing, but fundamentally for a living system in order to, thrive. So that's beautiful, because now we can say, hey, listen, information cannot be destroyed, like energy cannot be destroyed, only be conserved. So information proposition, censorship propaganda is physically impossible because the information is always there. It's beautiful, I think. Anyway.
Let me help here. I think, Aaron, you just need to clarify that the equation you wrote there,
Yeah.
including the mathematical symbols, minus, plus, etc., are used as an analogy or only like in metaphor, not the real operator, math operator. If you could agree with that, then
that could be, yeah, sure. It was not intended to be a mathematical law, for
so
example, in mathematics, but a functional law.
so you if you agree with that, Jerry's problem should be solved, and the math cap can be removed. So it's just your specific language you want to use that to express the idea behind that.
Yeah, the equations that were that were designed. I mean, I designed them, and then I had them checked by information physics professor in England, and he accepted it, and he accepted to publish my paper, which is of course already some kind of acknowledgement, right?
Okay.
Yeah, because it's maybe a new way. It's like a combination of this physical, let's say, empirical, but also empirically connected to the social. And that is what my aim was. And the social, of course, is maybe abstract. Is reality cannot be, defined in numbers, because it depends on the perception. So the initial idea of the equation was to put a P in there, the P of perception.
Exactly. No cognition.
Right. So
Joe,
that's how it evolved into this, and now it's workable because now AI uses it, the equations to, derive outcome. I just send you in the chat an example.
Joe?
Yeah, thanks. There was a lot of good questions. I just want to ask Jerry a quick question, because he does bring up like a fundamental problem, right? We have these different systems. These different systems have their own internal logic, and because of their own internal logic, the transfer between these symbolic exchanges, right? Like they don't work. And as was brought up earlier, like this is important to the work of Nicholas Luhmann, where he's like, the systemic exchange doesn't happen. There's only perturbations through places of structural coupling, so on and so forth. But I just wanted to ask Jerry as an idea, right? So if we have this gradations of reality, if we want to call it that, these different levels of reality, do you think there is a unified reality to which could be specified that would allow symbolic exchange between all of the different systems? And I think, because that's what I'm looking at, right? I'm trying to find if there exists something at a higher reality, and you could think of this as Nash's embedding theorem, right? Like I want to take that higher reality and embed it into those lower realities, so those levels of exchange could be mediated in a way that those different systems could respond to one another. Does that make sense? Is that clear to everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
But I'll answer very briefly and say, I've spent about the last 50 years working on that problem. I think I'm making some progress, but it becomes extremely entangled in the concept of how you use the language, how you define your symbols, what you mean by your terms and the relationship between the terms. What, in particularly, at the ground of all this is from my perspective, the utter confusion that the physicists have propagated on our world by confusing the notion of force with two different laws. Okay, the notion of force with two different laws. One, Coulomb's law, which Rahm is very fond of, And the other Newton's laws, which in general, the economics in general public the engineering community is very fond of Newton's laws and corresponding notions of energy. But these are two different symbol systems. The electrical symbol system deals with electrical fields. The Newtonian symbol system deals with gravitational fields. And these two fields are about as distant from one another as they can get. And the physicists have spent their last 30, 40, 50 years trying to resolve the discrepancy between these two field concepts. Mm-hmm. So I personally have my own unitary notions of how to resolve these issues. They're not popular with anybody except me and perhaps one or two or three, four friends.
Me. I like it.
But that's Arnon is very familiar with that notion of popularity of your own ideas. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so I don't want this, but Jason is aware of some of these aspects of what I was speaking about. Okay. Yep. And I think Igor by absorption is also aware of some of them. Yep. Ram is also by absorption aware of some of them. But the whole big picture I have never tried to sketch out in full. So let me stop there. I don't want to dominate the conversation.
No, I'm with you.
But it will come in time. In due time, it will come. And the bottom line is that symbolic logics need to be reformatted.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you. The reason I brought that up, one, because that's obviously what I think I'm trying to do, but I'm trying to do it in the social system, right? So I don't know if you were here for mine, but I'm working on a fields theory of social systems, right, based on the work of Kurt Lewin. So Kurt Lewin has a psychological model of a force field within hodological space, right? So you have path analysis, you have attractors or valences and stuff like that. And so he models that physics-based force model and says, hey, how can we use this in the psychological model? Because we agree that there are psychological forces or psychological energies, right? And then I say, okay, I'm going to take that psychological model and I'm going to apply it to governance, right? So special interest groups, all these different forces are acting on the politicians, and politicians are acting on what you would call like public policy space or however you want to define it, right? But anyway, so the reason why I did this is because I was going through and understanding like the model of the Christian Trinity, and one of those models was like this force fields theory model of the Christian Trinity. And I thought, okay, so if we take this highest order model, and each time we go down, we get further and further away from the truth of the model, as he was bringing up, right? But I was reading Baudrillard's simulation and simulacrum, because that's the whole purpose of simulation and simulacrum, right? Like this is the notion is like we start off with a wild strawberry. Somebody goes out there, picks it, eats it, says, I really like it. And then he goes out and he's like, okay, well, I'm going to grow me a bunch of strawberries. So we now have like this epigenetically variant strawberry, right? And then so I eat that. Right, somebody comes by and they go, "Oh, that's delicious," and then they want to use it, so they make a soda out of it. And then someone says, "Oh, I really like this soda." They make an ice cream out of it, and then you have this kid who grows up on this ice cream of strawberries, and you take the kid out to the woods, and you're like, "Oh, look, a wild strawberry," and you eat it, and he's like, "Bro, this is gross." Right? Like, how far away from reality have we gotten through simulation and simulacrum? Right? Like that's a horrifying concept that I think, but
yeah, no, I appreciate that, but I do want to hear what Igor has to say. Really. Yeah. But I would just say that yes, part of this is you're addressing exactly the issues that Lauren is addressing in the extension of the notion of extension of a concept. How far can you extend a concept and still have that concept being useful in the model of the model of the models of the model? And that issue of basic mathematical extension or logical extension or semantic extension or entropic extension is what which I concur with you about on your part of it. Anyway, I've said too much. Go ahead.
I'm aware of I like the concept that theories and models are neither right nor wrong. They are just more or less useful. So the final test is how useful our models of models could be. So I have a question for both Aaron and Joe. Would you consider trying to apply what you do today in this model to the current situation in U.S. government? I mean,
Yes.
Trump and Musk is doing this Doge thing,
Mhm.
DOGE. No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
DOGE, right?
Yep.
Government efficiency. Okay, so they are doing the cutting and all kinds of crazy things, and they probably more people want to assassinate them. So it's really real and very intense going on there. So how your model could be used to analyze and help the situation. If
Yes.
you are interested, we can do another session answering this
Oh,
question.
if I may, I show you my page here.
Please.
You see
Oh,
here,
it's already here.
it's already working, what you said. Yeah. You
And
see,
what's the solution? I mean, what's the recommendation coming from your?
well, here's the recommendation here. To achieve negentropy order, Israel must define its goal within our reality. Two-state confederation partner with a revitalized Palestinian Authority and shared security, resources, mobility, balancing mass Israel security and Palestine sovereignty. Gaza Reconstruction Pact offer Gaza conditional autonomy via PA international first trusteeships, exchange for Hamas disarmament funded by regional actors, regional security framework embed. So you see, when I ask and run DeepSeek or ChatGPT, we can analyze all these, as I said, anything, man-made systems, to give us information directly in 20 seconds that we would otherwise not find so quickly. So this gives us options and the negentropy suggestion, for functionality. So it works wonders.
Did you do this before the Bobby's? The Israel visit yesterday, or before
No.
or after? Did you do that before you muted?
No, I started testing the equations and writing. And I put the finding on my blog here. So whatever we see, I'll show you a few more, just a second. For example, here, I'll just go down. Here, the analysis for fake news, for example, right? You can do that. The situation in Congo, the M23 Congo issue that is now going on, that the proxy war funded by the West from Rwanda is entering Congo to secure all the mineral resources. Now, I wrote a thriller about that. It's available on Amazon. Elon Musk to go to Mars, for example, right? Is it feasible? According to my my equations, is not feasible. Understand?
That's to Elon Musk.
Right, this Elon Musk. Now, look, to assess the feasibility of Elon Musk's plan to go to live on Mars using Van Kampen's general law of functionality, we need to analyze the balance between mass, information, energy, and reality, right? In the context of this endeavor. And then we say in the end, conclusion, using Van Kampen's general law of functionality, Elon Musk's plan to go to and live on Mars is currently not feasible due to the imbalance between mass, information, and reality. However, with significant advancement in technology, resource utilization, and our understanding of Mars, it is possible that the equation could shift in the future, making the plan feasible. So you see, it's already a practical tool, because I wanted to build something practical, not just theory and ethics and morality. We already know that, you see. But the physics is here to do this. And I just built the bridge between physics and society. And that was my whole goal.
Okay.
And that is why AI thinks. I'm not
Let us explain.
AI,
AI,
but AI thinks that I deserve the Nobel Prize now. So there you go. It's amazing.
Okay. Send us the links.
But that is because it is very, very a practical tool you can use in any situation in your school, in your educational school, whatever, to test what can and not will not function, and use that information to improve your whatever system.
If Lauren would agree, this is a good facilitation tool for improving cognition capability.
Yeah, the knowledge, of course, cannot be selected so quickly without AI, but you can do it yourself as well. But what AI produces in 20 seconds will take you a week to collect.
Jason, I'd really love to hear Igor's contribution here because he hasn't yet had an opportunity to respond to the model of models issues.
Please, Igor.
No, I was just commenting. That was just a comment, not a presentation. I have a whole different model of how to understand the world. Actually, each of us has one, and that's a good thing, sharing those things. Yes. What struck me, Aaron, is we are perceiving the conscious part of the universe as, you know, people who know what they're doing or have actually developed goals. But there is a whole lot of universe which is, at least for us, regarded as unconscious. Basically, it does stuff. We don't know why exactly. We don't know how exactly, but it does it. But by your presentation, it comes to me that, you know, somehow there is some hidden agenda between the why is mass there? Does it have a purpose? Does the mass know it has a purpose? Does it has a higher level agenda? And I'm you know, just going in the wild here.
Yeah, sure.
Trying to speculate.
Well, I see mass. Oh, I see matter as mass. Matter has mass. As conscious. So all
Aaron,
mass,
I couldn't
all
understand
matter,
you. Could you speak louder?
Okay. I see mass, which of matter, which is of course mass. I see it as conscious. I see, and when you go back to the work of Seth Lloyd, the physicist, you know, that he says that fundamentally that the probability of information gave rise to life. So that the life was formed by the basics of information contained in particles that gave rise to more complex systems and so on until we arrived. So I think that is plausible. I mean, it's always plausible not to say demonstrable 100%, but we have to go on from one side of reality. So mass, therefore, because it contains information in itself. No. What, you don't hear me anymore?
That's some strange noise. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
310 hertz feedback loop.
Okay. You hear me now?
Yeah.
I have perfect pitch.
Okay. So because the basic, as I said before, that particles contain information in themselves about themselves, and information is mass and energy equivalent, we can therefore, derive that consciousness is universal.
Joe.
How
about your application?
Let's say that again. I'm sorry.
I mean, I just asked applying the theory today to the real situation in U.S. government today, and Arand shared his post, his blogs. And how about your side? Do you have some idea for how to use your stuff?
Yeah. So mine, because of the nature of mine, is more based on network analysis. I typically focus on the way Congress or the House and stuff like that works. So the reduction of complexity of bills is where I'm focusing, right? So if we have 100 different vested interests, and then we have a bill that has to be passed, what's the levels of complexity reduction into the binary of yes or no, right? So that's what mine's on, and it uses, again, going back to the conversation that me and Jerry were having. Do we have a universal reduction of complexity that can be used, right? So a universal symbolic reference of exchange, and to me those would be the virtues, and that's why I point to them. But I think Ram has something to say.
Yeah, Rem.
Oh, okay. Can I just share a slide for a minute?
Yeah,
Can you see this?
Not yet.
Can you hear me? No?
we can hear you, but I don't know do you have
Oh,
permissions to share, or have you
1
shared?
second.
Okay.
After I hit the share, I always forget to hit the share again. uh,
That's your grandson.
yeah, sorry. You keep seeing him every week. Now, what happened? My PowerPoint presentation.
Uh,
Okay, can you see it now?
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think this meeting, we are all in kind of violent agreement here. Like what Jason was saying, we are looking at structure, function, information, which structure is made up of, it's an assembly of matter. Function is transformation of energy. So this is same as matter, energy, information. And when they are all self-organized, that is this fourth dimension, if it is self-organizing, then it becomes evolution. Evolution is time. So that's what you're calling as the fourth dimension. This is what I've been presenting in all the meetings for several years now. So, yeah, but what I look at this as, when a system transfers matter, energy, and information across its perceived boundary, then I call it as an open system, and there is interaction between multiple entries. Okay, so the good thing is we are all in agreement. But what I made like 4 points here. I'll walk through quickly. First of all, we have to define a system. Uh, I think of either physical systems or conceptual systems. But when you're thinking of physical systems, which are really transferring real matter and energy, then we are dealing with the behavioral control of the system. If it is conceptual, then we are looking at the information content of the system. So there are two types of systems here. That's we seem to be constantly mixing up physical systems and conceptual systems, and that's why we're struggling with what is information. In the case of physical system, information actually relates to the process of how matter transforms the energy, and how energy changes the state of matter. So the word information actually becomes more equivalent to process. Whereas if you're thinking about a conceptual system, then if you're dealing with knowledge management, then the information really relates to a theory. How we are looking at the structure of that knowledge changing into a function and back and forth. So I'm just saying, let's keep track of physical versus conceptual. That's my first point. The second point is we are using words like value, virtue, goals. In my mind, they are all the same thing. Because I come from neuroscience background, and in the neuroscience background, this is basically the emotion side of it. That is how much salience I'm going to assign to any experience that I have. The salience, you can call it value, you can call it, if it is a high level knowledge we are talking about, then the salience could be equated to virtue. If it is a discrete physical system, we are doing some actions, then it becomes like goals and actions, and we can take it that way. Okay, so so that's the second point. In the third point is when Joe was presenting the virtue as a v of x, you're treating virtue as a continuous system, but it can actually be discrete activities too. If that is the case, then the virtue becomes an emergent phenomena, and what you're calling as attractors could just be mapping of for a given sensation, I map a certain action, or for certain action leads to a certain sensation. And all my previous presentations in these meetings, when I explained brain, that is what I described brain as like a GPS system that is mapping, and it is all the virtue, what you call virtue, becomes actually just attractors, and it is learned by Bayesian process. Okay, that's the point. Then the next point is on reality. I think between matter and energy, I think only one can be reality. I think of matter as reality. Energy then becomes matter in motion, and we describe the motion as induced by a certain energy. That is, essentially, it is principle of uncertainty. We have position and velocity, and position is the matter, and velocity is the energy. The reason why it is important is then very easily you can break the brain into two, compartmentalized into two parts: a perceptual part that is taking the matter part of it, and then the mind now becomes a model building thing, and that is where we get into this concept of model of a model of a model of model, because that becomes a mental faculty, and it requires memory, and memory is biased by the values that we are putting together. So a lot of the discussion that we are having here, it kind of everything kind of flows into the idea of what is done by our body versus mind, what is done by our perceptual brain versus the cognitive mind, and are we living in a illusory or continuity that we created versus what is reality is just the matter of the position. So finally, I put this all together, and it was interesting that Aaron was talking about matter having consciousness, and essentially any self-organizing system requires a top-level information. And the paper that I presented on consciousness, that is what I was saying. Consciousness is a noun word, and the noun word has to be related to an adjective and an adverb. The adjective is conscious state of matter, and the adverb is consciously performed activity. So consciousness noun relates to change in conscious state due to consciously performed action, or consciously performed action changing the conscious state, and this is the consciousness thing. And that, so if it is a living system embedded with a ability for consciousness, then this whole thing fits together. So the difficulty is, do you want to call a molecule as a system with consciousness? We could probably, why did the electron decide to rotate around the nucleus? So somehow it was given a certain consciousness that thou shalt keep rotating around the nucleus. How did it come about? In my opinion, that is where the absolute reality, which is treating only one of the matter as the only reality, comes in. And we will never be able to solve that, in my opinion, because singularities cannot be explained. We can only talk about complementary things. Between matter and energy, we can talk about the transformation. But is matter the truth, or is energy the truth? I don't think I expect to find it in my lifetime. Sorry, I had made lots of points. I wanted to get through it quickly.
Oh.
Thank you.
Great.
Before we jump off, I just want to address something that Jason put down. There's a lot to address. I would just like to sit down with Ram, and me and him have a 5-hour conversation, because I think we disagree a lot on the neuroscientific literature. But to Jason, if y'all see in the comment section, which I should be looking at. He says what you call virtue, I call cultural gene codes because in different cultures they are very different. But cultural gene codes can be more than virtue, including things such as habit, language, limitations, and stuff like that. Okay, so in my work, I do reference memes. But one of the things that I do is I reference the distinction between deep memes and memes as they manifest. So if you actually look at a memeplex, this is based on the work of Michael P. Schlell, um, who I would love to have come on here. So you have this set of memes, this complex of memes, right? But you have these deep memes to which all the other memes at gradations of level move up. So one cultural gene code, one meme may manifest or orient itself from this deep perception outwardly and manifest different, right? And this is based on what I would call hexes. Now, hexes in the West end up being the term habit from Aristotle, and this is connected to all of this. Why people say habit, habit, habit. But in the East, in the Greek-speaking nations and stuff, habit ended up becoming character, which is a part of a person's reality anterior to that manifestation, and that's what I was talking about. This interiority of structure before information processing. Because again, from my perspective, substance precedes generation because generation is for substance, right? So I just wanted to point that out that yes, there are cultural gene codes, there are memes, but these memes and the way they reference outwardly is a manifestation of the character of the thing. But that underlying meme, that deep meme, is the same in all cultures, in all humans, because I consider it to be a universal, which is why I use it to disaggregate from the highest level of reality into our reality.
Actually, I use cultural gene code in a very specific definition, which is smaller than meme, but more than things like a virtual or moral. But we can have a different discussion. My question to both of you is that do you want to do a follow-up session to specifically analyzing the current U.S. situation, the government situation, so that hopefully we can generate something to send out? I mean, to either facilitate or help those guys who are doing the tough job. What do you
Right.
think?
Yeah, I think so, Jason.
You just need to rewrite your blog into PowerPoints.
Exactly. But the blog is there, and there's this for me is just testing the theory, by DeepSeek and ChatGPT. So it gives us information that may be useful, and we can maybe use that to say, listen, if you do this and the equations work, this is not going to be achievable. It's going to collapse in entropy and a lot of physical harm, collateral damage. So this is
maybe a comment.
Yeah. So thank you for listening. I gotta go now, so people. So
yeah, me
please
too.
let us know when you want to continue. I'll be happy to participate. Sure.
How about Joe?
U.S. Politics, international politics.
No, I'm talking specifically this Elon Musk trying to improve government efficiency.
Yeah.
His work is very intensely going on every day.
Yeah. Well, just Jason, just use the equations I'll send you, or just use the text, enter it with DeepSeek, and you can find it yourself. That's it.
No, it's not what I wanted. It's I'm saying, do we need to do another session to put them in PowerPoint and then send out call or proposal or report or review or whatever comment?
Yeah, we can
something like that.
We
How about
certainly
Joe?
can work together. Yeah.
Aaron can do that. Joe, what's your opinion?
I mean, I guess if I was to do it, I would have to do it based on something like an agent-based model system. And again, because mine is mostly around the political network system, I don't know how it would work with like the executive branch's bureaucratic system. And that's just because I don't know if I have enough of the data to actually be able to do that. However,
Okay.
pause for effect. I mean, I guess I could probably look at actually, this is something that I could think about. The process of choosing those executive appointments um, through Congress. I mean, I guess I could look at that. That may be something, and that would obviously feed into Aaron's work.
So
But yeah,
sometime in March, can we do that?
yeah, we can try.
Which Wednesday do you guys prefer? We can settle this down so I don't have to do a lot of emails with you guys.
March.
For March, we have 5, 12, 19, and the 26.
Only five will fit because I'm traveling in March.
Okay, so Aaron can do 5. How about Joe?
I don't. I would have to wait a little bit because I don't. I'm
Then
having some.
12,
Yeah, I don't know.
20?
I have no idea. I would have to figure some stuff out.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just a lot going on right now, so I don't know. I just started a new job and I'm still wrapping up my PhD
Okay.
right now, so
Okay, so at least we have Aaron available on 5. We'll see later, maybe in 2 weeks we can decide.
Yeah, but anyway, go to my blog and find what you find useful, and start using it and start testing it yourself. So you maybe then see it works, because with that we can talk until kingdom come about all theories, but we have to do something as people who are concerned, at least I think.
Okay.
Okay. Goodbye,
So
everybody.
thank you very much for today. We are about right
Thank
on
you all.
time.
Thank you all, and
See you next time.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.